Hi, my name is Zoe, and this is my second individual project for CA214. This is part 1, the overview of my SRS document through the perspective of a chosen stakeholder. So my role in the production of Twitch is a software developer. My job is to code all the elements that will eventually make up Twitch. You can see it's not a small job. From looking at the product scope and the overview at the start of this document, I can get a brief summary of what the creators are expecting the software to be. Twitch will be a centralized live streaming platform, which can be accessed through a browser of choice. I find the overview section quite useful, as I don't have to spend time scouring through this document to see where I'm needed. I can just jump straight to the point and see what's being asked of me. I'm seeing sections 2.1 and 3 are tailored towards my work. It's a great addition. Briefly running through the group of interfaces sections, I can see what API we'll use, and I'm seeing a list of languages wanted, all of which I'm proficient in. Moving further down the document, this is explained in more detail. Also, there's a detailed description of how much RAM will be needed by the user, which is quite useful to me, though now I would need to know the maximum amount of space my code can take up. I find these use case diagrams in section 3 handy. They show me the paths that each feature takes and how they all link up. I like how there are 2 separate diagrams based on the class of user, which stops it from getting too complicated. I can see the full story through the search algorithm and the streaming process. However, I noticed that streamer partnership is mentioned in this document, but it's not shown. The domain model is very clear on describing the different classes going into Twitch. I can see lists of functions to implement and what they're needed to do. For example, the search algorithm class will have a function to retrieve channels. The layout is concise and there's descriptive content. Combining this with the user class section, I have a good understanding of the code conventions that I'm being asked to follow, and even know where to start, as some good examples are given in this section. These are the 4 requirements that are most relevant to me, as they are all to do with features that must be programmed into the system, such as payment pages or broadcast redirection. It directs me on how to produce my classes and what functions should be going into each class specifically. Though I have a few questions regarding this SRS, like how much memory is being allocated for my code, what platforms or services are being integrated for donations, and are the moderation tools going to be built in or worked on by creators? Now, onto part 2, which is self-reflection. I feel as though the goal model that I've produced at this project is of the highest standard. I spent hours evaluating all the possible goals of the main stakeholders and assigning them. I feel my diagram is visually appealing and easy to understand. At the end of both submissions, I personally took charge of redesigning the SRS. I made it more readable and made sure everything was uniform. I rearranged some of the sections, even adding a subsection to make things clearer. I feel this gave the SRS a more professional look. However, during the second submission, I rushed and said I would take sections 3.7 to 3.7.3, not realizing they weren't actually written sections. I instead took the stance of adding another section to 3.2, which covered the user class work I'd done. My biggest weakness was not reading and understanding more clearly what had to be done. I feel as though throughout the project I kept assigning myself too much work and was struggling to get it done, along with managing all my other modules. I didn't reach out to my group for help, yet I know now that I should have. The most challenging part for me was being in a group of members who didn't seem to hold the project as high as I did. In the first submission, it came as a surprise that one of my group mates wasn't putting in effort and not submitting their work. It shocked me other people didn't prioritize the project. However, in the second submission, I had a feeling it would happen, and I opted to work with this person on a few sections. And as I imagined, it happened again, and I was able to make sure no parts were missing. I found working through the SRS as a whole is the most useful, not any specific part. I've been struggling to understand the material in class, yet the creation of the SRS led me to understand all aspects of the course. If I could do this again, I would dedicate more time to reading the sections and fully understanding what's expected before choosing which sections I take. I feel it would help me to find which sections are more suited towards me. Another thing I would do differently if I had the choice would be to pick my own group members. I would like to have people in my group who value their work as much as I do, and it would be useful while my grades are partially based on the work of others. Thank you for listening.